Welcome
Blog
to
Talk
Solutions
Radio.
with Courtney Anderson. I am your host, Courtney Anderson. Thank you for joining me today. Today's show is one of our Help Situation Series shows, and that's the series where community members like yourself go ahead and share with me concerns, issues, worries, and ask for help. So today we are shining a spotlight on this issue. Help! I am addicted to self-pity. Wow. I am addicted to self-pity. Now this is a powerful, difficult, and I'm in the interest of full disclosure, as I'm so often putting myself out there, this is something that I fully understand. The challenges in life when we focus on, think about, reflect on, emotionally stay grounded in the worst of what happened. The worst. So for those of you who had, relationships devastatingly fall apart, for people who had betrayal that's beyond imaginable from someone that you thought you knew, you thought you trusted. For those of us who've experienced grief in any form that took away our ability to even think, financial pain, for those people who are survivors of traumatic or violent incidents, crimes, abuse of any type, childhood abuse, all these things. It amazes me often, and I was in court doing some volunteer work as a lawyer just last week, and I was saying to someone there, it's amazing how well people do. It's amazing how people function, especially in light of some of the things that I'm aware that they've experienced, and the fact that they are up and mobile, and if they're old, if they're an adult, functioning or working, and if they're a young person, going to school, you just think like, how? And it really, it's the cliche, right? It's so inspirational, and as someone who certainly, is a motivational speaker and gets sometimes, teased relentlessly for that by people who don't take the type of work seriously. I don't think they've understood the true depths of agony that many people experience. And not just that people experience these horrible things, financial, emotional, psychological, physical, abuse, trauma, but people often experience all of these things, and then they do it, and there's no sort of caring, compassionate, someone there, to say, oh my goodness, it's happened to you. How can I help? What can we do? This is so horrible. I'll be here for you. Let me know what you need. Many people, just suffer, and they suffer, in a solitary situation, and it's amazing that they keep going, and it's amazing that they're able to function as well as they are. And again, by amazing, I just mean that I think if sort of the average person who hadn't experienced, real trauma understood what the person next to you, at the grocery store or on the subway, what their life has been, or vice versa. If you've been through more than what you would probably think is your fair share of substantial and significant trauma in your life, if the person next to you could understand what you're going through, wow. But the reality is that we are here. And, until that situation changes, our challenge in this spotlight is, how do you begin to function in a way where, yes, you're aware of these things, they have happened, maybe they are happening, maybe they're, maybe later today another unbelievable, unthinkable thing will happen, and you'll think, wow, I didn't even see that one coming, right? The question is, for somebody who's addicted to self-pity, what do we do? What does it mean? So let's walk through it. The whole concept of addiction, of course, is fraught with all types of challenges. Many people argue, that there's no real addiction. Some people say, hey, you're not really addicted. It's all about choice. You could choose to stop drinking alcohol. You could choose to stop abusing food. You could choose to stop, spending too much or doing all these things that people call addiction. And then the other side of the discussion, people say, look, these are legitimate medical, psychological, emotional challenges, and people become literally victims, right, to all types of things. So the question is, can someone become addicted to anything? And I don't have the answer to that, as usual, when we talk about these types of things. What we're here to do is explore ideas. I always put forward the idea that be careful in life of who and what you turn to in terms of the answer. In other words, whenever somebody or some organization purports to have the answer, here we have it. Here's the answer. This is going to be the answer. You're going to be rich. You're going to be loved. You're going to be powerful. You're going to be happy. Whatever it is that they're telling you that they have the answer. The moment I hear anything like that, I immediately sort of become hyper aware, because maybe they do. I don't know. It's certainly possible. Anything can happen. But be cautious of those who come bearing answers. And the really sad thing and the challenging thing in all of this is that so many of us, that's exactly what we're looking for, right? The answer. I want somebody to give me the answer. How do I start my business? Give me the answer. How do I find, the true romantic love of my life? Give me the answer. How do I get an amazing job? Give me the answer. And so it's difficult because so many people are searching for answers. And then when you have somebody who is unscrupulous or unethical or flat-out criminal, they know that. And they'll give you all kind of answers. Whether or not those are going to be the path to, the utopia that you're hoping for, or they're going to just separate you from your money, I don't know, but I tend to be suspicious. So as always, we don't have the answer. I have my own interpretations of things. I'll give you my conclusion. I'll tell you why I think something, but that doesn't mean anything. It's not meant for anyone to do anything other than invest the time in asking themselves the questions and coming up with your answer. We all have to develop that reliance on ourselves, which relates to this concept of addicted to self-pity. So whether or not you believe addiction is, quote, a real thing, I think what people mean by that is that it really is almost, like having, cancer or some sort of medical condition, versus it's something where you just, cold turkey. Hey, I'm not going to smoke cigarettes. I'm not addicted. Hey, I'm not going to abuse my credit card limit. Cold turkey. That really isn't, to me, germane to the issue of whether or not you feel that you're addicted. And that's the question, right? And so the general way that you answer that is you kind of ask yourself, has this issue impacted my life in negative ways? And if it has, then potentially you have a problem. Whether or not you believe it's some sort of a medical, emotional, psychological issue or something that's behavioral, that to me at this point isn't really the issue at the moment. But is it impacting your life negatively? And so is self-pity impacting your life negatively? I think the challenge is that we want to believe that we're special. Not in a negative way, not even in an arrogant way, but we want to believe, our feelings matter. And in so many of the programs that I do, I talk so much about that, right? Perception's reality. If it's real to them, it's real. Don't try to take away or diminish somebody else's value or feelings. And if somebody says, I'm offended or I'm hurt or I'm scared, who are you to turn around and tell them you shouldn't be, or you're too sensitive, or you don't have a sense of humor? By doing that, you diminish who they are. And that's accurate. I believe it's an accurate sort of broad general assessment of these things. That from the inside perspective, inside of ourselves, we're sort of with ourselves, all the time. I did shows a while ago about, the 70,000 thoughts a day that we think. That's a lot. I'm not saying it's a lot relative to every other, sentient being in existence for all time. I'm saying it's a lot in my mind relative to, numbers and my grasp of what 70,000 means. So if we're with ourselves and we're thinking just this massive amount of thoughts all the time, then we have this sort of bias, of course, that these thoughts matter, that we matter. And of course, in certain settings, we should feel that we matter, right? First with ourselves. Are you kind to yourself? Are you caring? Are you compassionate, with yourself? Do you treat yourself well in terms of, sleep, nutrition, support, or do you berate yourself and abuse yourself? But the bigger question when it comes to this idea of self-pity, the idea where we feel sorry for ourselves is something that I think, it's some broad definition we could apply, universally. Sure, every person at some point feels sorry for ourselves. And sometimes it's completely justified. Like I said, the most horrible things happen to people. And I do mean horrible. It's a natural disaster and some, tornado came through and destroyed their home and killed their loved ones. Or, they were having a nice day and then they were hit by a bus and, they lost 2 limbs and they're paralyzed or, just whatever. Or it's something that sounds more, mundane. They were betrayed by someone who said that they loved them in a romantic relationship. They were somebody who they thought they could trust, stole money from them. That doesn't sound like it's the end of the world, but for people who that's never happened to, it's painful. The challenge is with being addicted to self-pity. And this is, again, another popular culture. So the first part of the scenario is how is it negatively impacting your life? The other issue is how's it working for you, right? What are you getting out of it? My argument is, and I tend to be a bit of a behaviorist, that, why do we do what we do? Well, because we want to, because we're allowed to. And we're allowed to by ourselves, we're allowed to, by other people. That's the whole idea of people enabling us, right? The enabler is the person who, for whatever the cause is, or even the treatment, helps the addict continue to be an addict, right? So the enabler for the drug or alcohol addict tends to be the one who either gives them money and they turn around and use that to procure the drugs or alcohol. In some situations, they themselves actually go out and, maybe they give their prescription drugs to the person. They're enabling, right? They're allowing and helping, right, to facilitate the person who's the self-pitier. I saw one of those documentaries. I watched these. I don't know what it says about me necessarily, but these documentaries where they'll have people who are just super morbidly obese, somebody who's 600, 700, 800 pounds, which is really, really a serious medical condition. And I've seen so many of these documentaries, a whole series, in fact, where the person, is literally 700 pounds. So at that point, they're not mobile. They can't walk themselves. They literally can't, roll over. They can't, really do anything. They can't groom themselves. They have to have somebody else, groom them and help them, with everything. They can't go to the bathroom by themselves. And yet, they're still able to maintain these massive amounts of calories that you have to sustain to maintain 700 pounds, which is going to be somewhere roughly around 7,000 calories a day. Where are they getting it, right? Because they can't do it. They can't go to the kitchen and cook themselves. They can't go to the store and buy something, because they're not mobile. They can't walk. And these documentaries, it's just, to me, heartbreaking. There's the enabler, right? And the enabler is usually, almost always, a relative, often a mother or father, a spouse, an adult child, even a minor child. And so the person is sort of, they're bedridden, right? And they're immobile, so they can't get up themselves and go get the food. But they need, literally, to maintain their weight. The moment their weight, they take in less calories, of course, they'll start losing weight. So to maintain yourself at 700 pounds, you're having to eat a massive amount of calories, and roughly, and I'm not getting into this at this point, but we've done other programs about it, but, roughly for every 100 pounds, roughly about 1,000 calories a day, roughly. Now, gender and your size and your body composition, all that kind of stuff. But that's a rough calculation. So somewhere around 7,000 calories a day to keep 700 pounds on. How are they getting that? That's a massive amount of food. Well, their enabler is cooking it, bringing it to them. And often the enabler will be bringing it, into their place where they're on their mattress because they're bedridden, while saying, you really need to eat better, while bringing them, keeping plates of, their 7,000 calories. And I even saw one where I thought it was really creative. The person lived in like a high-rise building, and so because they're immobile, they have their, their sort of bed area next to a window, outside to the community. And so they would, sort of roll over, use their phone that was in arm's reach, order from the, local fast food restaurant, delivered, like most normal places, do in many parts of the world, food. And then they would come over, and they knew, because it was a regular customer, that when they came to deliver stuff there, you don't go to the front door and, sort of ring on the doorbell. But what you do is they would go to the window, right, because the person was at the window. And so the person had like a little rope pulley set up. So that here comes the delivery service, and they're, and then they put their delivered food up into this little like basket on the end of a rope, and then the person would sort of pull the rope up, up there to their, through their window, and then to get their food. I thought that was incredibly inventive, actually, for somebody to think of. The challenge, though, the point is, who's enabling you? In most situations, not all, but in most situations, with our self-pity, we're enabling ourselves. So the self-pity is, it's pitiful. Oh, that's so sad. Oh, I feel bad for them. Pobrecito. It's so sad. Poor thing. And that's, and so that's pity. I'm pitying them. And self-pity is I'm pitying myself. Poor me. Look at this. Oh, this happened to me. Oh, nobody cares about all these horrible things that happened to me. Oh, look at me. Look at my pain. And as I said, earlier, this is something that's relatively easy to fall into. Things happen in life, and at some point, I think most people question, really? Why, the whole why me? And if you're not vigilant with any addiction, whether it's food or, drugs and alcohol or, exercise or gambling or, whatever, shopping, it doesn't even matter. If you're not vigilant, then you start to use these things as a way to sort of give you that attention you want, even if it's just yourself. So you feel sorry for yourself. You're saying, oh, poor me, poor baby. I'm pitying myself. Oh, this is horrible. And I'm not saying that these things aren't horrible. That's the challenge. Many of those people who get caught in this, when they start to talk about what's happened, it really is horrible. By any standard. Nobody could, debate that. But like I said earlier, remarking, in some of the legal cases, it's amazing what people can do and how well people can function at some level. We have again, we talk about this in so many programs. I'm arguing free will debate again, but I'm arguing that we either have some element of choice or we perceive that we do. And so, yes, if someone is addicted to self-pity, like every challenge in life, the first thing is acceptance, right? So I stop denying it. How do you know you're addicted to self-pity? Look at your behavior. Sitting and thinking in your thoughts, things where you're thinking your thoughts in your mind where no one else can hear it, and you think, oh, I feel so bad for me. It's horrible. I can't believe that happened to me. Look at me. Look at this sad, horrible thing. Me. Okay, well, fine, but nobody gets to hear that. So I don't think anything necessarily. I think it might not be the best use of your time because you have, limited amounts of time each day due to the 24 hours on the clock, and you may have other things that you would like to accomplish or achieve, but, so if you allocate a disproportionate amount of time to your self-pity activities, then you're taking away from something else that either could have been more enjoyable or more effective. It might have made you get better outcomes, but whatever, it's your choice. I'm arguing. So when you're looking at your self-pity and you're doing it in your head, silently, quietly, I'm doing my self-pity. Oh, I can't believe this. Nobody feels sorry for me. I'm all alone. I'm scared. I can't believe this. It's so horrible. Okay. My issue would be, how is it impacting your life based on your behavior? How do you take that pity and use it as a basis to impact other people? So you take it outside of your head. right? So maybe you're so wound up in your self-pity, thinking about how, horrible it is to be you and the burden and how unfair and, blah, blah, blah this. And you had made plans to go meet somebody, to go to lunch or dinner. And you're so busy with your self-pity activities that you're late. And it's not the first time you're late. And the person might reach out and say to you, when you're late, it's disrespectful. But if you're caught in self-pity, you'll immediately think, see, look at them. They're picking on me. I was trying to get here. I was trying. And I have all these things. I'm so sad or angry. And, how dare they? Here's the thing that I addressed earlier. Like I said earlier, it's amazing what people do. And you don't really know, right, the person next to you at the store, what their life's been. And they don't know what your life's been. But the person that you were going to go meet for dinner, guess what? They have their own life story. It becomes destructive to other people when your behavior shows them that you think that you're more valuable than they are. Now, if you truly believe that they're not worth anything, that your time is the only time that matters, that they should literally be your, I guess, virtual servant, right? They have to just accept whatever it is you give them. And they should be grateful because you have all this pity that you're doing, and your self-pity takes a lot of time. Okay, well, that's a choice, and there are many people who operate like that. I know so many. My challenge as someone who, again, I shared at the beginning, I've struggled with this, the self-pity. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that narcissistic, sort of whiny, infantile person who's just constantly, what about me? What about my pain? What about what I want? What about me? I find it, when I see it in other people, disgusting. And when I stop to realize that I'm doing it, I'm disgusted in myself. And for me, that's enough to reject wholeheartedly this behavior. I do not want to be, and I'm not going to be, addicted to self-pity. I beg you to consider the same. You're better than this. Thank you for joining me today.